Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you guys are from, wherever you guys are listening from and watching from. Welcome everyone to another talk time. This time on a Tuesday, because yesterday I was very, very busy. But it is indeed a pleasure to meet you guys again. It's been a minute, so um, it has been a minute, and it is very sweet that you guys are here and that you guys are kind enough to watch again, which I really appreciate indeed. And today we are not doing it um, in the length format. We're doing it in horizontal because there's quite a couple of things that I obviously would like to share in the next roughly 1.5, 2 hours that I'm here today, so that we can do a couple of recap things about the good old times, which were more good than old. And having said that, it's going to be a good time that we're going to speak about today about the good old 90s, the 90s of music, of having the opportunity speak. To speak of a legend, to speak of a movement, to speak of music, to speak of spirits, to speak of all these things back then. And it is indeed a big pleasure to um, have been part of this time, to be honest, because it was indeed a good thing to have a opportunity to have this chance, however, to talk about this time is even better because it's been a while since then, obviously. But on the other hand, it is really cool that it is a couple of years ago when the high time was there, so to speak, right? But on the other hand, it is indeed also a good thing that you are now able to lean back, enjoy, kick back, relax, and have these wonderful memories of that times indeed. And obviously, it was a great time because obviously we are talking about um, one of the most movement times that people can actually have, maybe after the flower power, so to speak, if you will. And being honest, it was not necessarily given that a lot of people would actually go through that and survive it, so to speak, if you will. So therefore, it is really cool that, and it's a good moment for me to talk about this because since I'm now producing music by myself, um, and just doing that since recently, it is obviously cool to understand also the mechanisms behind that and to understand how much work that actually is, even though I only do it as a hobby, obviously. But it's also cool to understand what's going on behind the scenes and all these things so that you know you can kind of also have an understanding why things are as they are. And today I'm going to speak about a very true legend at a later point when people are we are a bit more people here in the house so that we can actually join this memories together, so to speak. And as you can already see, we are talking about the very legend DJ Quicksilver today from Germany, a legend from electronic music, and a guy who was not only in studio and doing some little club things. No, 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 no. He moved two generations by now because not only that he did a lot of world hits, and he had quite some of them. We go through that in a little bit, but he had indeed a very huge history of music knowledge. He has a huge knowledge of how to actually get people together back then and now. And this is not the very common thing to happen, if you will, because back then, if you consider techno music was a big thing, of course, and it came up like in the beginning of the 90s when some people all well at the end of the 80s, even when people in Chicago and Detroit put some music together in a little different way than they did before in discotheques or clubs back then. It is now a totally different story, but Now, obviously, it is very common to do house music, techno music, but those pioneers started it back then in Detroit and Chicago. Then all of a sudden, the wave, so to speak, went over the pond to Europe as well, and started with so-called garage music in the UK, and then also came over to Germany, where people like Sven Fed and so on did a lot of things. But you know, here's the thing: 30-something years ago, it was the 90s, and everything seemed to be possible. It was when the Berlin Wall fell down, when people got the freedom to do that, when the Love Parade was getting more and more common in Berlin, when people were going to this big raves, but also still the small clubs, the underground things, to just be in a dark room with some flashlights, maybe if you were lucky, no air to breathe. The sweat came back down from the ceiling, and a movement actually occurred, which was called the techno and the rave movement, and it was really a cool thing to happen. And in this time, those people who had the technical knowledge, which I never had, they some really smart people started to actually produce music by themselves, but not this typical. There's a song, there's a vocal, there's this, there's that, there's that. No, they started to create, to play around with music, with sounds, with they created loops, they created a total different sound experience than you had used to have before. Now, interestingly, um, it is very, very interesting to see what has happened since then, because it's quite a lot. And I'm going to go through that today, but also today, I would like to really show a lot of appreciation to a true, true legend from back then, and who is still a legend and an icon now. Because if you consider let's go back to the 70s, like 50 something years ago, when we had 60s, 70s, when we had the Beatles, the Bee Gees, when we had the Rolling Stones coming out, they are still legends. They are still there, right? Now, if you go from going to the techno part these days, for the house electronic music, now there are a lot of newcomers, obviously, and they fill stadiums, they play Tomorrowland and all that, but it all was founded by those who I personally call musical or techno gods. And one of them, I want to go through it, through his history a little bit in a little while. His name is DJ Quicksilver, and I am extremely happy that his music occurred back then, because his soundtrack is also a soundtrack of my life, if you will, and therefore it is indeed, for me, a personal thing, to really talk through that with you guys a little bit today, so that you also understand why the passion for electronic music is there for me, and not only for those who went to raves back then. I would like to say hello real quick to some people who are here. It's Totally Social with Lorna's in the building. Hello, my darling. Bossette Joseph is in the building. Hello, my darling. It's been a minute. I hope you're doing well, and hope you're having a good week so far. Well, obviously you have, because now you see me. So very nice of you for coming. If I don't pay attention to the chat too much today, I beg for apologies in the beginning, because today is a lot of facts, a lot about facts, a lot about some couple of things that I would like to address to you guys, that you understand what went on 30 years ago, what's going on these days. And I would really like to take that opportunity to talk about this one special person today, who really created a lot of parts of my soundtrack of my life, if you will. And then I'm not talking about me being this newcomer producer, I'm talking about the life itself. I think you all understand, when you go through your life, when you look back, and I'm like 50 plus years old, as you all know, when you look back through your life, and when you look back through these certain events, there's always some points in life that you will never forget. Good things, bad things. Hopefully, mostly the good things will occur in your brain and as a remember. But there's always, you very often you combine that with music, right? So you have this music comparison to certain points in life that you will never forget. And if you hear a certain track years later, a song that you hear years later, you will then understand, oh yeah, I know exactly. And you even sometimes have the smell in the nose again, or the taste in your mouth when you ate something special on that very moment when this happened, when this song came up back then the first time or something. You went to an event, you went to meet friends, you met the love of your life, you had the best food in your life, you went on a vacation or something like that happened. And all of a sudden, this soundtrack, this song, this track, this kind of sequence of a track is occurring on your brain, in your heart again, and you're back at that time, right? You're back at that time, like within a split second. And this is so interesting because it happens to me as well. Believe it or not, there are not many tracks that I would say is part of my life journey, so to speak, which I would always combine with something. So but there are a couple. I want to play them here today because of copyright issues, but I'm going to name them later on in the post on my wall after this live session. So one of those tracks that I will always, always, always remember to listen to whenever it occurs and whenever it comes up. It's called Bellissima. And that is from the very DJ Quicksilver. I want to introduce you a little bit to DJ Quicksilver in a bit, but I'm going to give you a little bit of the story of that track because Bellissima actually was. So I have to introduce Quicksilver first a little bit. So DJ Quicksilver is not only it was not he still is a DJ, by the way, and he still does music in studio as well. However, back then, producing music was a total different story than it is these days. At that times, there was not all this software available that is there for like bedroom DJs like myself or bedroom producers like myself. But it is, I'm sorry, it was way more complicated. You had to have a lot of hardware machines, right, where you could cut tapes and put them back together and all these things just to create a loop. These days, to do easy speaking, you do it with a couple of how can I say it? You do that with a couple of mouse clicks. In theory, it's a lot more than that. You can trust me on that, but you do that with just a couple of mouse clicks, right? And you do that to you know have a couple of samples together to create a track out of that. Easy spoken takes a lot more than that, you can believe me. However, the funny thing is that back then the techno scene was more starting to grow. The seed was just set. So the electronic samples came in, tracks were remixed from the 70s, 80s into what everything. Acid came up. That was a time when, and you can look at that in my poll as well, when people were starting to wear white T-shirts with this huge yellow smiley on, which we these days call emoji online. However, so people were having these T-shirts on, with the acid smile. And we from Germany, who were not that familiar with English, we had no idea what acid meant. And we had no idea that this was actually the picture of a pill that people were started to take in that times. It was a modern drug, so to speak. However, it was not necessarily common sense that producers or DJs, yeah, it says I do church sound, and in the bottom it says for miracles ask Jesus. So I'm not the miracle maker. However, the point is that you were not necessarily a common producer or DJ when you were not just preparing for underground and or those clubs with where there was only darkness and all that stuff. You were actually obliged kind of to to do the underground thing. So nobody really I'm sorry, was feeling entitled to do pop music in a broader way, right? So I'm not making techno bad. I'm just to put that into kind of listener classes. So it wasn't necessarily common sense that electronic music was played in a radio unless it was a niche radio where people were actually listening and having the opportunity to speak about whatever thing like techno music, electronic music, house music that came up as well, rave music, all these raves that also came up. So one day, and I believe it was in 1995, in the clubs, in literally every club where electronic music was played, turned up a track called Bingo Bongo. And it was like very, very kind of a mixture of, let's say, funny. It was a mixture of interesting. It was a mixture of deep, dark beats and sounds. And it was only one vocal that said, Bingo Bongo, Bingo Bongo. Now, the younger guys of you might think, okay, what kind of crazy stuff is that? Well, it was absolutely sensational back then. And it still is for me, because I thought, okay, so in theory, you just need a couple of sounds, a bit beats, and the bingo bongo, and you have a track. Well, I can tell you now from the little experience that I have comparing to 3 months ago when I started producing, it is a lot more than that. It might sound super simple, but that is the arts of an artist like DJ Quicksilver is, to make it sound simple while it is not simple to produce it at the same time, matter of fact. And this tiny little experience that I have now, I can well definitely judge on that, I believe. This little bingo bongo thing, as people call it in the beginning, it went huge. It went super huge, and it went super through the ceiling within no time. And it was played in every single club. Now we are talking about music that was not digitalized by then. It was still vinyl records, and it was really like you had to find the right part on the record to mix it in at a certain time. A lot of DJ failed with that because they said, yeah, it's a separate track. No, it was not. I tried it myself on my gadget here, and we are now talking about electronic stuff. Some genius tracks like Bingo Bongo are not easy to mix in if you're not a super pro and know your record tracks or the records that you have exactly where to put it, when to fade it in, when to fade it out, when to make what with all the little buttons that you have on the mixing deck. Now, that was the first track that came into my ears when it came to DJ Quicksilver, who we are talking about today. And DJ Quicksilver, however, that was one of the most genius records of electronic music that I've ever heard. Why? Because he made it sound simple while it was not. Because if you, and I can put that here in the chat, right? A track, you can look for that. So you can look for that on here. There you go. So that is a track. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it everywhere on Spotify and all that. Now, the interesting thing is, if you listen to that song very, very carefully, put your earphones on while you listen to it. Don't make it too loud, but make it like 3/4 loud. And then listen to that track and listen to all these tiny little details. Because then I've realized it is more than just a little boom boom and a little doogie doogie and a little bingo bongo. It is a lot more than that. Because it's the tiny things that you only hear when you listen to a track the first, the second, or the third time, that you then are aware of. Hey, wait a second, let's go back for 2-3 seconds. What was that? And then you have this little tiny little sequences that these days you could actually call a hidden track, if you will, right? Or some kind of hidden sequence. You don't hear it the first time, but you hear it the second time. You hear it, then the more you listen to it, it's a track of like, I believe, 6.5, 7 minutes. And if you listen to it thoroughly, if you go through it completely from the very beginning to the very end, and if you do that again after a 5-minute break, and if you then do it again after another 5-minute break, you will start hearing all these little tiny little sequences that were kind of put in there, but not just as a loop, just like a little tiny little tone here, tiny little tone there. Brutally brilliant from my perspective. And I have to say, it was really a huge thing to see how that track went through the ceiling. Obviously, until then, I didn't know DJ Quicksilver. I was in 1995. We're talking about. By then, I did not know DJ Quicksilver. By then, I did not know who that was, where he was. Of course, the people like me who did not know it, we all thought, oh, he's somewhere from the UK or from America or something. No, turned out he he only lived like 45 minutes away from where I'm from. I'm from Düsseldorf, from the west of Germany. So he lived like 45, oh, come on, let's say, depending on traffic, an hour away in Bochum. It's also a town in the west. And he had his own record store that nobody knew anything about him until this record popped up. And that was a first record that gave him huge success in the club scene in the first place, right? So that was not necessarily for radio airplay or things like that. It was played here and there, but not necessarily regularly like you do with all these pop songs, as that you have these days. However, that was Bingo Bongo, and Bingo Bongo was like going, into the sky like a rocket in the clubs back then, and it was like a huge, huge, huge success in the clubs. Everyone, and I mean everyone, every DJ had it in his case. So did I. I remember that. The tiny little clubs that I played here and there, I always had that record in my case, because you played that and the evening was secured. You're cool, right? You had this, we called it great shit in the records. And it was indeed a huge, success for people who, sorry, for people who went partying back then. It had to be played, period. The evening was not over or was not complete without Bingo Bongo. And that is a matter of fact. And I remember it was played regularly in clubs until I believe like 98 or something. So for 3 consecutive years, it was like the club anthem, if you will, one of those club anthems from then. It was like a huge thing, and it was a huge success. And everyone who had this record, and people went to record stores back then. Don't forget, there was no Spotify, there was no YouTube, or YouTube just started, but they had nothing to do with all that kind of stuff. So Spotify wasn't there, Apple Music was not there. It was record stores. So you went to a store, you took your purse, you went to a store, you bought a record in vinyl. Everyone had a record player at home back then. CDs were just like getting modern. For those who don't know what CDs are, they're gone as well. So vinyl records were actually getting modern again, and vinyl records are actually getting we're actually getting really into the you went there and bought a record, and when you knew a certain artist had a record out, especially also in the techno industry, you had to be fast, because the first pressings, the first printings of the records, they didn't make a million out of them. They created them, they were sold, then they created the next one. And that is how it worked. So Bingo Bongo, I heard that the first time, and Monday morning, first thing, I took half a day off. I remember as it was yesterday. And I went to the record store and I bought that record. I bought that very record in vinyl, believe it or not. And it was a treasure to have, I mean, obviously you could listen to it every Saturday or every weekend in the clubs, but it was a very cool thing to have it at home and have the opportunity to listen to it at every time. And the interesting thing is, from my personal perspective, listening to that track never got tiring, never. So you never got this, you never got tired of listening to that track, and I still listen to it over 30 years later, right? So you never got tired of that, and you never got really like, that track again, that, as you do with so many other tracks if you listen to regular radio, right? You never really have this, you always have this, oh god, now they play it again, they play it again, they play it again. No, not on those tracks. And he did a lot more than that. I come to some of those his tracks in a bit. But he did an awesome job, and as we say, he was at the right place at the right time, producing the right track. Now, DJ Quicksilver understood two things, and he does it until these days. He understood to create music more or less only for the club scene, but he also understood, why don't we take it a little more commercial so that other people who are not necessarily familiar with techno music, or maybe it's not their cup of tea or something, but maybe I create something for them as well, right? Maybe I can um, something for them as well that makes me a bit more well, not famous, but more known, which makes me a bit more understood also from the people who are not going to the typical techno or house clubs or something like that. And that is how he then started to create other music as well. That is how he actually created music that was still electronic, that is still techno, but had a lot more melody, here and there, a bit vocals as well. And my most favorite track of that time ever, and I'm gonna show you something on this. Now, let me go to my Spotify real quick. Let me go to my Spotify real quick and let me show you something so that you understand what I'm talking about. So if I go to DJ Quicksilver on Spotify, and I'm going to share my screen on this so that you guys understand what I'm talking about. So share screen, DJ Quicksilver Spotify. There you go. All right. Now, you see, this is his Spotify profile, right? That's what you see here. Let me just put it up on stage. There you go. So this is his Spotify profile, as you see here, right? Spotify, let me just close this. Can I close this? Can I close this? I don't know. We just, yeah. I just want to put the focus directly on him so that we can do anything else before. So this is the profile of DJ Quicksilver, as you see. And just put this in normal size. I think that should be enough so that we, there you go. So this is DJ Quicksilver. Here on the side, you see the track. Now, if you see Bellissima, the radio edit was played in radio, actually. So radio edit is not always meant to be played in radio, but it's a shorter version so that it is also possible for airplay, as we call it these days, in radio. However, Bellissima, as you see on Spotify, it's like almost 30 million clicks. No, sorry, 30 million views. Clicks is another story. That's more with YouTube, but that is his track. This is the anthem of DJ Quicksilver. The number one anthem. You see, there's radio mix, there's radio edit, there's a couple of things. He also had other very famous tracks, and I believe that even though you might not know the name Bellissima, if DJ Quicksilver, if you're younger, than if you're younger than 20, 25 years old. I'm very sure if you listen to those tracks either on Spotify, and I also show you the way how to listen to all that here on YouTube. If you listen to those tracks, I'm 100% sure you will know Bellissima, 100%. You will definitely know Planet Love, and you will most likely know Free. But he also did other tracks like I Have a Dream and all that stuff as an homage on Martin Luther King. And he is a fine artist who understands the feeling of the people before he even, creates the track itself. Now, here's the thing. Now, Bingo Bongo, as you see, is not even in the top 10 here, right? Because it was more the club thing. And you see, these four are the top hits that he had as by Spotify. But you should not forget, Spotify came a lot later than the 90s, right? Spotify came a lot later than, so these tracks, if you combine all the people on this that have listened to these tracks since the 90s, right? If you were able to convert that into views and clicks and all that stuff, you would be easily by way over 100 million people, matter of fact, or 100 million views on those tracks, easily. I'm just saying, because it is a matter of fact. DJ Quicksilver is a legend, and DJ Quicksilver had this very, very good feeling in his fingertips, as we say in Germany, that he understood and still understands to put music together for everyone, not only for the clubs, not only for the regular discotheques or whatever you call it, not only for radio, but for both audiences, right? For those in the underground and for those who were actually in the, in doing other things. And obviously, I cannot play the tracks here because of copyright reasons. But on the other hand, I will put something on my wall post later on to get that done. What I also want to show you is the fact that Mr. Mr. DJ Quicksilver also has his own website, and if you look through it, there's a lot of things going on. Still, you see, he is a distinguished gentleman. I give you some of his history in a little. So this is his website, and there's an English version. So it's English or German. So you have the opportunity to have a look. dj-quicksilver.com. There you go. I'll put all those links later in the on my channel post for the posting, so to speak. And so this is the official website, and there's a lot about him, gallery, contact, and shop, and all that stuff. Yes, you can still buy stuff. Let me just go there real quick. So you can buy, look at that. You can buy all the t-shirts and all that stuff. We are the 90s. So you got a web shop as well. Obviously, he needs to earn some money, so there you can buy all that stuff. However, I want to go back to the website real quick. And so you have a lot of things that you can see here. There's a gallery, and there is a lot of things going on. And I have to say, he aged very well. He was born in 1964 in Turkey. I come to his history in a bit. So he almost didn't change since the 90s, I have to say. Well, obviously, his hair got a little longer, but he almost doesn't have any gray hair. And he's still playing the big festivals. Look at that. See? He's still playing the big ones. And not only 90s festival, but he also plays a lot of other festivals where his music is still wanted to be listened to, and where people are really, really passionate about having him on stage, listen and party to the mighty DJ Quicksilver, as I like to call him. Why do I call him mighty? Because he got this opportunity and he got this ability as a DJ of what I like to call man fishing, right? You might go in there, and I saw that numerous times back then when I was in some places where he played, that he is not only DJing, he's not only playing Bellissima up and down, even though it's his track, he creates a great storytelling line within his sets from the very first track to the ending of the last one. And that is not necessarily what every DJ is able to do. However, it is a huge thing for people to, in the retrospective, looking back to that times 30 plus years ago, when he came up, when he fired like a rocket, right? He was like really understanding from the very moment on, from the very first moment on, okay, you know what? Let me try some stuff, and let me try to what the people will say. The good thing is, in Bochum, in the town in west of Germany, he had his own record store, which was also kind of an assembly point of a lot of people who were in the scene, like ravers, DJs, producers, and all that stuff. And he sold the records, that not only his ones, obviously, but also records that were really common sense back then in the clubs, that were played up and down from any kind of genre. And he still is an expert on that. And if he still had that record store, I'm very sure it will be super frequented until now, because he also can tell you, okay, what do you want to listen to? And if you don't know the title, then he can tell you, okay, this could be your genre. Maybe you want to have a listen to this, and then we can build up something with you together, like a little record collection or something like that. That's what he did very often. And people are still here and there, when interviewed, talk about that times in his record store in Bochum. And his knowledge about music is way more than just doing some DJing, doing some loops together, and there you got a track. He had this idea, and he was looking forward already, like thinking out of the box back then, that he can combine club scene versus, let's say, commercial / radio scene, right? Radio listeners. And if you listen, or if you go to one of those tracks from back then, you can really see that Quicksilver understood and understands still to get people together partying, having a great time. And he is not necessarily an entertainer. He is really kind of coming up there, playing his stuff, but reads the people, like screening the people and understands what kind of track is now wanted and what not, right? So that they all understand, okay, here we go. Here's what we're gonna love, and that could be the next thing. It is not an easy thing as a DJ to do that. And in the end of the day, it is super interesting to see how these things are actually developing these days. Now, I want to give you a little attention on the website again, so that we can go there a bit quickly. On the website, you always also find his discography, so to speak. So there's also, yeah, there you see, there's a top 10. There you go. It's Apple Music, obviously. I have my music there too, just saying. So these are the top 10 in Apple Music. There you go. It's Bellissima, obviously, the radio edit, as I talked about it. And you should really listen to it because it's a beautiful track. It's a beautiful track. My advice would actually be to try to listen to to this one, 12-inch cut. It's also available on YouTube. I'll show you where in a minute. And then you can actually hear the long version, and it's a really nice build up, I have to say, but it's also a nice build down at the end. It's really a very logical track, if you will. Even though it is very melodic, it is very happy spiriting, giving. It is very nice to, party to it, smile with it, and all that stuff. And in the end of the day, it is really nice. I Have a Dream. This is the one that I told you about already, from as little homage, if you will, on Martin Luther King. Very, very good, and very, very, I wouldn't say minimal track, but it is like the focus is on the voice of Martin Luther King. And I mean, people who understand a bit of music and the stories behind those kind of tracks is also good to know. So let's go a little bit through this. So let's have a look. Bellissima, we talked about that already. There you go. Apple Music. We have the album, there you go. All these things that are over here. A lot of people try to do some remixes and failed brutally because, as I said, it sounds easy what he does, but it is not. It is really, and I'm not talking about producing in general. I'm talking about, for instance, on Bellissima, getting pieces together that make sense in the long term, pieces together that really tells a story within the 6.5 minutes that you have in the long play version, right? And it is not easy to have a melodic track, and I know what I'm talking about, that you want to build. That is not a classical song because there's no vocals, but a track where you can really, from the beginning, when the track ends, you nod and you say, "Yeah, that's it, easy, done, makes sense. Let's play it again." And it is very, very not it is not common at all that people are actually able to understand what's going on there, and it is super interesting to understand what you actually see. So I also want to guide you a little bit to his Instagram story, so to his Instagram there, so that you also see there what's going on. So this is his profile, DJ Quicksilver, as you go, and make it a little bigger so that you can see it better. Really, really cool stuff there. Also, where he goes, where he plays, what he does. A lot of 90s parties, obviously. He recently was in Austria, just around the corner, as I've realized, like 5, 6 days ago. If I had known that before, I might have just walked there, most likely. Great parties. This is how he looks like when he DJs these days, and a lot of things, what's going on. He's on stage still a lot, and there's a lot of I look at that, East 17. So he was on stage kind of with East 17, also a good band from the 90s back then, if you remember the boy band movement. People are doing some funny videos on him, and he's posting quite a lot, and he's very much on the road still, very much in Eastern Europe, but also in Germany. And as I said, for me, he is a legend. And here's why: because he was one of the first people who nowadays are called a star, who actually were really into getting this electronic music danceable on stage and all that stuff. So if you look at this one here, you see quite some familiar names for those who were in the 90s and for those who were, on the road back then to party and all that Magic Affair, Captain Jack, Brooklyn Bounce. Come on, who don't know them, right? DJ Quicksilver. Why is he written so? Oh, Blümchen is headliner. Okay, whatever. Dahul, another legend who we're going to speak to at another time. And there's quite some people who really made it from back then until now. And DJ Quicksilver is one of those who. And here's the thing. Now, this particular picture here, this one, I want to show you something. I want to tell you something about this. Now, techno music was huge and big in the 90s, and it still exists, and there's still raves, and there's still all these big things like Tomorrowland and all that. But if you look at this particular picture, now here's a very, very big thing. Quicksilver is on the road for like 40 years if you consider his, or if you also count in his very beginnings of his career, right, as a DJ and all that stuff. Now, he is already most likely entertaining the third generation already, right? Because remember, I'm 50 plus years old. Some of the kids from people of my age are already getting kids as well, and there you go, going to DJ Quicksilver and third generation. There's not many electronic music producers and or DJs who can actually say, yep, I'm entertaining the third generation already, right? Legend, legend, legend. That's all I can say. And in the end of the day, he is, and that's what I can prove, or that's what I can witness. That's what I did witness back then. He is indeed a legend, not only because of the music that he did, not only because of the ideas that he had on how to actually create videos. There were music videos back then. All these videos that you see of him on YouTube are actually have been run on MTV, Viva TV, which was the German equivalent to MTV, and all these other music radio, TV channels back then. So, matter of fact is, he had this great ideas also on the videos. He had the great idea on how do I get these tracks together so that also a broader audience might like it. And that is really, really interesting because now, as you see on this particular picture that I just pointed on, you actually see that he is entertaining generation number 3 already. And people still go there and really party to his music because the 90s music, I have the feeling, will never die. Thank God. And he is one of those legends, in my opinion. And that's why I really want to focus on him today. He's one of those legends that made this music so popular, also outside those clubs that were somewhere downstairs, basement floor, in the dark with just some stretcher lights and all that stuff. He made it really legendary. And I really have to say that great thing to see, great thing to watch, great thing to listen to still, right? Because it is so cool to understand nowadays, since I have kind of started to create music by myself, that it is not necessarily common sense that people are really more into the pop music again, if you will, or all these things that are sorry, that are called techno these days. Ugh, no. If I go through the music of, if I listen to the music of Quicksilver, and which I frequently still do, then you got to understand that it is not necessarily common sense that if you listen to some tracks that you have this opportunity to only or mostly understand what's going on there. The good thing also is that there is some easiness to listen to, if you will, right? And there is a lot of kind of also deeper going understanding, if you will, to understand. Yes, it was my time. Yes, it was my time. Yes, it was my time. And those videos from back then, they went up and down. So he got airplay not only in radio, he also got airplay a lot in music television. He was booked on so many big raves, Mayday, Love Parade, I believe. He was in many, many big clubs. He was on TV shows on Sundays. We had a certain TV show on Sundays that showed some hits, and he went there and he was played there and brought entertaining the other people, even with just one track because it was a TV show. And he was on numerous radio sessions live. I remember that as I do yesterday, as it was yesterday, and some of those sessions are also available on YouTube when he was playing on a very Western German radio live show on stage on a bigger rave, and it was super interesting to listen to that. But if you nowadays go to his if you nowadays go to his thing, then you can actually see. Let me just there you go. I'm just gonna show the video parallel to that. So the thing is, if you nowadays look at his music, so this is from, not even sure, 97, I believe. I think, yeah, this is Bellissima. So this is a video without sound this time because you got to listen to it by yourself because obviously copyright reasons. But the point is that this is a video from like 30 years ago almost, and the music to it is so nice. And when first heard it in radio, and then obviously I thought, oh, that's cool. Who is it? And I didn't even know it was DJ Quicksilver because it wasn't announced. And DJ Quicksilver I only knew from this Bingo Bongo song that I mentioned at the beginning. But interestingly, the thing is that if you watch that videos from back then, there was real music videos. I mean, there was really people in some place, as you see there. I heard this video was actually shot in the Netherlands somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure where it was shot. But as you see, it was true people. It was somewhere in a ballroom, and people were really acting. It was not like these days where you use for everything with your smartphone and la, 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 video ready. No, it was really like acting. It was really like music, and there were people, and there was a story behind it, so that you can actually understand. Okay, here's something going on, and there's a story. So the original track. Let me just have a look on this real quick. So the original track is like 3:52, 3 minutes 52 seconds. Now tell the story in 3 minutes and 52 seconds within a track. So it is not only tricky to do that with music, but it's also very tricky to do that within a video, right? So in the end, that is a big challenge indeed, and it is indeed a huge thing to walk through that with the audience. So you have to understand, if you do a music video, which I never did, thank God, because I think it's a huge responsibility. But if you create a music video, you have to think about, okay, here's my track. That is easy because people just have to listen to it. But if you want to sell it a bit more, you obviously have to you had to do those music videos back then. Now, what kind of story am I going to tell people in 3:52? In 3 minutes and 52 seconds, what kind of story am I telling the people? What is this? What can I give them visually, right? Now, these days, people don't really do music videos anymore unless they're super big, but even then, nowadays you are going to, you have this little canvas on Spotify, or you do something with AI on YouTube or something like that, which I do because I have no time, no chance to create a music video, even though I would love to. But and by the way, the guy in the red jacket, that is DJ Quicksilver back then, and he almost didn't change. Jeez, I'm jealous. However, if you consider the fact that he is indeed still on the road with the music from back then, but also modern music. He plays everything and he makes people very happy dancing. So, just to give it insight, that was the video from back then. And just want to go back to the website real quick before we dive into two or three other things. So, the interesting thing is that there you go. This is the website. And the other thing is that he did not only do Bellissima, that was his biggest hit, commercial wise in radio, but he also did a lot of other things. He did co-productions, he did remixes, and still does. And why is he a legend for me? Relatively easy, because he understood that he is not only. Let me start different. In the 90s, the DJ was kind of the god. He was somewhere up there. People were down there, and you were just like, doing your thing, and you were God because you had the power in your hands at the turntables, right? Now, he was never like that. He understood the people. He was seeing himself more, or still does, seeing himself as a servant for the people that are dancing or partying to his music, right? He never saw himself as this guy up there, and he never behaved like that either. But he also understood what the people wanted to listen to, and he really had this opportunity, which he used, thank God, and his talent to create that music that people wanted to hear. So he was really having this feeling for what could come next, right? What could come next? What could I get the people with me on this journey again when I create a new track, right? I want to say this production stuff in the beginning for him was also like a side job because again he was fully self-employed with his record store, which was open on regular weekdays, right, Mondays to Saturdays. He had his DJ job to do. He had obviously he has a private life as well, like everyone else, surprisingly. However, he is still on the road and he still managed to do that. And he is one of those who I admire also because he did that all without any scandal whatsoever, right? He never freaked out. He never left the floor. He was always standing on the ground with both of his feet. He was always extremely friendly and still is to his audience. He is super near to the people, to the pulse of the people, if you will, because otherwise you would not have a chance to really do this kind of music that people are so passionate about. And in my personal opinion, and this is just me talking, right? Because there is no panel today. So, in my personal opinion, his sound is very melodic, powerful, instantly recognizable, but also it is very surprising here and there, right? There are tracks, if you listen to them, there are sequences in there that you will never expect when you start listening to those tracks. You will never expect that because, as a matter of fact, he also knows how to trick you, right? He knows how to trick you with the sound. He knows how to actually get you by like, what? No, no. Let me go back on that. He did not just do that. Come on. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. This is what you think in the first place, right? When you listen to those tracks, you think like, no, no, you didn't. And he has those momentums, the surprise momentums as well. And it is insane here and there if you if you listen to that and then see what the heck is going on, and then if you understand that you can also do all these funny things to have that done, and it is superb if you see this kind of things like, and I can even imagine him sitting there smiling like, you guys will not expect that whilst producing. So it is super interesting to understand those kind of tricky, nasty things, if you will, in the most positive way. And if you then see that when he plays that kind of stuff, and people are still like, no, you didn't. then you see his bright smile on his face, and he thinks like, "Yep, oops, I did it again." And he got this very, very great talent still after all these years to play around with people's thoughts in regards of when he plays a set, right? Yeah, everyone is expecting, okay, it's a 90s party, we do this, we do that. But all of the sudden, and you can watch it on YouTube on numerous videos, he puts one in that nobody would expect at all. And he's really a genius on that one as well, as far as I'm concerned. And it is really brilliant to watch how things are actually, how he actually manages to to really get that done. And it always makes me laugh still, in the most positive way, how um, people are how people are actually getting there, and how people are actually getting to understand the fun that he has with it when he actually tries to get that done in the most positive way at all. And there's nothing else I can say on this, because you have to listen to it, right? You have to listen to it on your own, and then understanding, okay, there is, yes, it is fun to listen to the tracks. Matter of fact, it is very much fun to um, understand the energy behind it, and there is a lot of energy behind it, I can say. I've witnessed him numerous times and all that stuff, and I can really say that back then and today, the energy has not got less. So it didn't decrease. His energy is still there, the same way like it was 30 years ago. The energy every time when he goes on stage, he really plays legendary sets. Everyone is super satisfied. He's able to really make a lot of funny movements with his music. He very often still plays vinyls, by the way, very interesting. And obviously also with the modern gadgets that the world has to offer on that case. But yeah, give a bit of history before we end the Quicksilver part of today's session, and we can do some more other topics. So he was born in '64 in Turkey, and his parents moved to Germany, and then he grew up there, obviously. So he's German, period. Even though with people, sorry, parents from Turkey, but he grew up here, and he's one of ours. He's one of the world. Easy, right? So he grew up in the west of Germany, and opened his record store pretty much in 19, I believe, in 94 or 5 or something like that, and had his record store there where people came, as I said already, the ravers and all these people, the DJs and all that. And he won a contest, and when he saw that thing coming, he called himself Quicksilver, DJ Quicksilver, and his real name is Orhan Terzi, and you can actually watch that on his on Wikipedia and everything as well. He had quite some very successful records, as already mentioned, and quite some tracks that already were in the charts. So this Bingo Bongo thing, for instance, that I mentioned in the first place, his very first track that got famous in Germany, if you will, was in the German charts for like 36 weeks. Can you believe it? 36 weeks for a techno track. That was a sensation back then, because, well, nobody really had a track in the charts, like from the electronic music slash techno. And that was not a song. Again, it was just not a song. It was like Bingo Bongo. And I just talk it easy, but it is not. Some beats around, some little sounds around, and that was a track for the clubs. It was in the charts for consecutive 36 weeks. Not too bad, I would say. Not too bad. So, sorry, for 13 weeks, and it was the highest rank was place 36, which is in the top 100, which was still not a common thing. Now he had quite some very good charts placements, like "I Have a Dream" slash Bellissima, 9 weeks, sorry, 4 weeks, place number 4 in 25 weeks of charts placement. And obviously, there were quite some very good charts placement that he had. And that was not common sense by then, because at the end of the day, you had to have to have sold certain amount of records to actually be played in the radio in the first place, and after that, the records sells, usually went up. But for electronic music, it was not common sense at all. And what I can say is he has got very sensitive fingers, if you will, by producing, because he has got this opportunity to not only produce music. I mean, everyone can do that these days. Even I'm trying it. Though I never say I'm good, but I'm trying a little bit to play around with it and see how it goes. But he was a real pro and still is, and he was not having these gadgets that we have these days electronically. He was actually having this very opportunity to have it done physically a lot. So he had all these machines there, with the tapes and all that stuff. He had to cut and put together, cut, put together. Also, there were some computer programs, but comparing to what we have these days, they were super simple, right? So there was nothing where you can say, oh yeah, and this and that and that and this. No, that didn't exist. So just that you understand what's going on there and what is going. So I also want to guide you towards the end of this topic. I want to guide you a little bit to his topic page. Now, if you are good followers of mine, you're already following my the World of Ragus topic page. I'll come to that in a bit. And so what I think is also fair after today, if you also I'm going to put the link in the chat anyway, so that you guys might like to follow this one. Let me just put this on screen real quick. There you go. So this is the world of the DJ Quicksilver topic. Make this a little bigger. Put this away. Oh, no, okay, this way. So there are all his tracks, right? There are all his tracks available on YouTube itself, on the channel, the DJ Quicksilver topic. So every artist who got music on YouTube Music is also getting mirrored there. So there you have all these tracks, but then you have the albums, you have Planet Love, you have those tracks that I was just talking about. You have all these things in here. And what I'm just going to do is real quick, I'm going to put the link into the chat and I'm going to pin it there so that you guys have a chance also to subscribe. Topic. There you go. Did I write that correct? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There you go. So I gotta pin this on the chat so that you can actually. I'm gonna close the poll. All right. So, if you don't mind that you also support an artist who is on the road for a very long time, he is a really cool dude, and I can say that also his Instagram profile is very, very up to date. So you can also follow him there if you want to. If you ever have a chance to go to some of these places where he plays in Europe mostly, but also in other places, have a look what he's doing. Follow his Instagram, follow his YouTube channel here, the one that I just pinned on top of the page, and you have a good chance. So here's a reason I want to give it a little private insight, if you will. The music of him actually is a huge part of the soundtrack of my life. In 1995, when Bingo Bongo came out, the first track, I was really into partying, but I wasn't really sure. Is it house? Is it techno? Is it hip hop? Not really sure. So Bingo Bongo, his first track that made him so successful and famous, not only in Germany or in Austria, Switzerland, really in all over the place. So the Bingo Bongo was my kind of my awakening, if you will, right? So that really had a huge influence of me going back to certain clubs where that kind of music was played. Then I was really surprised when I learned that Bellissima is from him. As I said, I had no idea in the first place because it is a matter of fact that you don't expect that really when you are used to Bingo Bongo and all of a sudden you hear this real song, no vocals, but you really have this melody and this story in 3 minutes 52, um, talking about all these things, listening to all these things. It was a total opposite. It was a total opposite to what you have created before. And I was like, okay, let me get used to this for a minute. And let me understand what he's doing with this, or what he's meaning with this, right? What does he mean? What does he want to tell me? Why is he doing this total opposite kind of music comparing to what he did in the first club hit, so to speak? A lot of people, I can tell you, were kind of shocked. So was I. When we had to learn it was DJ Quicksilver doing this, when we understood, oh, wait a second, huh? That was Bingo Bongo. That was a doots, 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 to overdo it a little bit. But why is he actually doing this now? And how? And all that. So it is like a huge thing to see that people are actually, where the faces were like had a big question mark, and like, what in the Lord's name is going on? Uh, but then we understood, because he went back and forth a little bit, right? He made some more melodic stuff, and he made some more things to go through and all that. But in the end of the day, it is a super interesting thing to see how those things are going. So my ask would be to also have a look on the the profile that I just pinned up there. You can listen to all his tracks, view all his albums, and have that all done, so that you see, or that you can actually hear the difference of those certain tracks from back then up to now. So, yeah, my little homage today on one of my very heroes when it comes to music, for sure, is DJ Quicksilver indeed, and I will do that frequently now, to go with you guys through the 90s, tell you stories about certain DJs. As a summary of DJ Quicksilver, I can definitely say, not only a cool DJ, not only a cool dude, but indeed a very, very distinguished person as a person, a very elite DJ and producer, superstar worldwide still, and at least from the electronic music sector. And I can for sure say that it is definitely worth listening to it if you are into electronic music at all, so that you understand how all these things were built up until this day. Now, a lot of kids do electronic music, play big venues and all that stuff, but not all of them have the opportunity to tell a story like Quicksilver did and does. So it is a huge difference to what happened back then versus to what's happening now. So that was just about me today, about DJ Quicksilver, one of my very heroes, still up to date, I have to say, because he understands the assignment, and he understands what's going on, and what works and what doesn't, and he always did it great, I have to say, and there's for me no doubt about that at all. So therefore, I hope that you understood that this is a personal thing for me to do, and it's a personal topic for me to talk about, and I do appreciate that you guys listen to that with your patience today. However, the cool thing is that I understand that it is not necessarily always a topic that you guys are interested in, because I know a lot of you guys listen to other kind of music, but sometimes you have to go through that as well, matter of fact. Mm, and obviously, it is super interesting to sometimes maybe even hear from the older people like me, like, okay, this is cool, this is not so cool. Oh yeah, this is really cool, and yeah, let's have some party or whatever. And therefore, it is nice to have you guys here as well. So for today, I think I would just also end it here today, so that You guys can do other things, and I do appreciate each and everyone coming. Thank you for listening in. Appreciating that, and wishing you all a great week. I'll be back on Thursday with the usual open microphone insanity, and hoping that you guys have enjoyed this a little bit, that you didn't find it too boring, but wishing you all a great Sunday. Sorry, a great Tuesday. Tuesday. I'm so sorry. A great Tuesday and a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you guys are to finish. And thank you so much for listening in. And I'm wishing you all a wonderful evening. Good night. See you soon.